Welcome to the Push It Forward podcast. I'm your host, Corey Washington, and today we're taking a hard look at how biblical history has been whitewashed in movies, shows, and also in religious culture. So, why is Jesus white in nearly every depiction? Why are there almost no black actors in biblical shows like The Chosen? And how does this false image shape how we see faith, power, and identity? Let's get into it. Let's start with geography and people, because it matters where the Bible took place. It was not Europe. The Bible world spanned across North Africa, the Middle East, and Southwest Asia. So Jesus was born in Bethlehem, raised in Nazareth, lived in Judea, all regions under Roman rule in what is now modern day Israel/Palestine. But the world he lived in was far from monochromatic. So the Bible frequently mentions people from Egypt, where Abraham visited, where Joseph was sold, and where Jesus' family fled to escape Herod. Ethiopia, also known as Cush, referenced multiple times, including the Ethiopian eunuch in Acts 8 and in prophetic books like Isaiah and Zephaniah. Libya, Cyrene, and Arabia, all part of trade routes and cultural exchange of the ancient world. So people of color were everywhere in the biblical world. One key verse in Jeremiah 13-23, can the Ethiopian change his skin? That means darker skinned people were known and acknowledged in scripture. So in Isaiah 18:1-2, we read about a nation of tall, smooth-skinned people from Cush, historically identified with Sudan and Ethiopia. These weren't outsiders, they were part of God's redemptive story. Jesus hid in Egypt as a child. If Jesus had pale skin, would he have been able to blend in with the local Egyptians? Let's be honest, the people of the Bible weren't white Europeans. They were brown, black, and olive-skinned, reflecting the diversity of the region. So now let's talk about how Hollywood has twisted that reality. So the classic image of Jesus, light brown hair, blue eyes, fair skin, didn't come from the Bible. It came from European Renaissance art, especially paintings by Michelangelo and Leonardo da Vinci, centuries after the life of Christ. Hollywood inherited and amplified that image. Films like The Ten Commandments, King of Kings, The Passion of Christ, and even recent hits like The Chosen often portray white or racially ambiguous actors as Jesus and the disciples as well. So where are the black people in these stories? Take The Chosen, for example. Beautifully filmed, strong performances, but black actors are nearly invisible. Yet black and brown people would have been all over ancient Judea. Even in crowd scenes, their absence is glaring. So according to UCLA's 2024 Hollywood Diversity Report, less than 5% of lead roles in religious films are played by black actors. That is not coincidence, it is conditioning. Cecil B. DeMille's biblical epics set the tone in the 1950s, and Hollywood hasn't truly updated its casting lens since. So Hollywood doesn't just reflect culture, it shapes it. When the Son of God is always shown as white, people associate divinity with whiteness. And that has had devastating consequences, both spiritual and also psychological. So what happens when you grow up worshiping a God that doesn't look like you? James Cone, father of Black liberation theology, once said, "If God is white, then white is God." That quote cuts deep, because for centuries, colonizers, enslavers, and missionaries used the image of a white Jesus to justify domination. In the slave Bible distributed to enslaved Africans, entire sections were removed, including the stories of Moses leading the Israelites out of Egypt and verses like Galatians 5:1. It is for freedom that Christ has set us free. When people are conditioned to believe their skin color is inferior and their God is white, they internalize oppression. That false image has led to spiritual trauma, especially in black and indigenous communities. Let's dig into another damaging lie, the curse of Ham. In Genesis 9, Ham, the son of Noah, sees his father drunk and naked. Noah curses Ham's son Canaan, not Ham himself, and says he'll be a servant to his brothers. So over time, some preachers twisted that passage to claim that Ham's descendants were black and thus destined for slavery. So let's be clear here. The Bible never mentions skin color in this story. Canaan's descendants lived in the Middle East, not in Africa. That was a justification for slavery, not actual theology. And yet, this distorted doctrine was preached for centuries to support colonization, segregation, and white supremacy. So contrast that with Acts 17 and 26. From one man he made all the nations, that they should inhabit the whole earth. We are one blood, one race, all human. So representation matters. Representation matters. Representation matters. When people of color are excluded from biblical narratives, we lose something sacred, the truth that all people are made in God's image. Revelations 1:14 and 15 describes Jesus with hair like wool and feet like burnished bronze. What does that sound like to you? Certainly not blonde hair and blue-eyed. When our children see a white Jesus, white apostles, white saints, they subconsciously associate holiness, power, and leadership with whiteness. So faith should liberate, not enslave. Scripture should reflect all of God's people, not just one race. We need more inclusive portrayals in Christian media, more black, brown, indigenous voices at the table, in churches, on screens, and in seminaries. Cherry limeade, by the way. While the whitewashing of biblical narratives has been prevalent, there are contemporary efforts to challenge and change these narratives. Films like The Color of the Cross 2006 depict Jesus as a black man, exploring implications of race in religious contexts. Similarly, the Book of Clarence 2024 features a predominantly black cast, reimagining biblical stories through a modern lens. However, these films often face challenges in funding, distribution, and reception. So director Ridley Scott, when questioned about the lack of diversity in Exodus, Gods and Kings, stated that casting lesser-known actors of color would hinder financing, highlighting systematic issues in the film industry. It is essential to support and promote for diverse representations in media to ensure that all communities see themselves reflected in these powerful narratives. So, the Bible is not a European book. It is a global story rooted in Africa and in the Middle East, reaching out to the world. It's time to stop worshiping a false image. It's time to stop letting Hollywood dictate our theology, and it is time to reclaim our truth. Black people are not footnotes in God's plan. We are the story. We were there. We still are. Thank you for listening to Push It For a podcast. If this episode opened your eyes, like it, share it, and subscribe.